Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Nicola here, the outreach specialist with REE Medical. I'm so excited to be doing another video again with my colleague, Todd, who is our director of partnerships. So great to have you on again with me, Nick. And of course, we are so excited to have an Army veteran here, Blas Hernandez. He went through our service. He has an incredible story to share with you guys. We are so excited to interview him today and just feature us on this new episode. So thank you both for being on here today.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this call a lot. Like I said earlier before we got on camera, I've been shouting it from the mountaintop.
We
That's
love it.
awesome.
We love to hear it. Thank you for the support. So yes, first and foremost, and obviously Nick, feel free to chime in too, any questions. We would love to just kind of hear a little bit of background story of, your time in the military, when you started, where you served, what you were doing prior, what you're doing now, anything you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I joined the Army, I was 18 going on 19. I had been working for a Red Bull distributing company, the energy drink. One day I came home and I saw that my mother was crying on the couch. I instantly got worried because my brother was actually serving overseas in Iraq. So I immediately thought something happened to him. So I asked my mom, like, what's going on? Why are you crying? She's like, your brother, he got hurt. And I was like, is he okay? Like, and she's like, he's fine. He's going to live. I just remember like that pit in my stomach from hearing one, seeing my mother cry, but two, also hearing that my brother was hurt and was in Germany at the time. So I remember I really didn't say much. I kind of just changed out of my uniform, got in my car, and I just drove. I had called a buddy of mine, Mark Cortez at the time, and I just told him like, hey, like, can I come over? So I came over to his house and I just told him, I was like, hey, like, I think I'm joining the Army. And he's like, no way, me too. And I was like, okay. I was like, do you want to just go to the recruiter? So we went to the recruiter. I told the recruiter I need to go as soon as possible. And during that time, that's exactly what they wanted. So 3 weeks later, I was in basic training as an infantryman in Fort Benning, Georgia at the time, which I believe it's Fort Moore now. So from there, graduated basic training. First duty station was in Korea. From there, I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where I had deployed to Afghanistan. What's crazy about this story is in basic training, the unit that I had been serving in was actually also the basic training unit that my brother had also been in. That gave me like so much pride, going into my first duty station. Well, I went into my first duty station. Like I said, I went to Korea, then later to Fort Campbell, where I then deployed in 2010 to 2011 to Afghanistan in the Paktika province. Well, my brother had also been deployed again after recovering from his injuries. Since that time, my brother and I we probably hadn't seen each other in almost 10 years. But we always kept in contact over the phone. I mean, he was just doing his own thing.
Yeah.
He was in Afghanistan the same time that I was in Afghanistan, and we were 500 or so miles apart from each other. It was the closest we had been in 10 years. So that was pretty cool. And we talked as much as we could while I was over there. He actually got home before me. It was cool because he had a relationship with my first sergeant at the time, and we kind of started connecting these dots. Our worlds slowly started crossing. From there, April 22nd, we got in a big firefight where we had taken 9 casualties, one KIA. My brother had heard about that story because at the time, my first sergeant called him and told him that I had been put in for the Bronze Star for Valor for the events and stuff like that that happened that night. So I just remember him just trying to get a hold of me because he already had been home, and he's just like, hey, this is what I heard happen. Like, you need to get home. He's like, this is the most anxiety I've ever felt was you being over there. And after what happened after that grenade blast, I'd been involved in a grenade blast and stuff like that. And luckily, like, didn't suffer any major injuries or whatever, but he was just worried sick. So from there, was stationed in Texas and then later Hawaii. That was my final duty station. And while I was in Hawaii, I wanted to find a way to kind of capture me being in Hawaii, like how many people have the opportunity to say that they've lived in Hawaii for 3 years. So I wanted to do everything I possibly could to capture, my time there. So I picked up a camera, a GoPro at the time, and was just kind of filming every hike I went on, any kind of tourist attraction that I went to. Picked up surfing while I was out there, and was literally just capturing everything on a GoPro. From there, I'd been contacted by HGTV. They were like, "Hey, we saw this house you filmed. We'd love to bring you on for a series called My Aloha Dream Home." They did use some of my footage and stuff like that I had, so they allowed me permission to use their name on a resume and stuff like that. And to me, that was gold, because I was like, wow, not only did it validate what I wanted to do in the future, but it gave me like the confidence moving forward that I can actually make this into a career. So I got out of the Army in 2018, had the hard decision of whether I wanted to go back home, which is in California, and attend the New York Film Academy in Los Angeles. That was going to be, if I went home, that's exactly where I was going to go. Or if I wanted to go back to Tennessee, a place that meant so much to me just from deploying and stuff like that. And I just loved the South at the time. So I decided on Tennessee. I told myself that I usually do better when my back's against the wall and I don't really have any kind of support to kind of lean back on. So I went to Tennessee, and from there I pursued real estate photography and videography. Through filming some of these like larger homes and working with a luxury realtor, I had the opportunity to come in contact with a couple NFL players who were actually starting up a podcast and needed a producer. They gave me the opportunity to run with the podcast and produce it moving forward. We got picked up by Barstool Sports at the time, and now they have probably over 500,000 subscribers. And are just absolutely killing it in the NFL space, in the sports world.
Awesome.
I had worked with them for 4 years, and I had to make a decision on whether or not I wanted to continue this or listen to my heart, because what brings me joy and value is just like continuing to serve. Like, and I missed that aspect of being in the military. And I was sitting down and thinking about what I could possibly do to continue to serve. The police department actually became an option because my next door neighbor had been a police officer, and I had picked her brain left and right. Anytime she had came home, I was like, hey, she probably thought I was creeping on her, trying to like hit on her or whatever. I was like, no, I'm just genuinely interested in like becoming a police officer. So she was kind enough to just kind of share her knowledge about the department and everything like that. From there, I just remember talking to Will at the time. He's one of the NFL players, and I just told him, like, I'm really thinking about going into the police department. Like, and he's like, well, what does that look like for us, And he's like, do you think you could do both? And I was like, I'll do my best to try to do both. And he's like, is there any way I can convince you to stay otherwise? Just say a price. And I was like, man, I don't think you could put a number on that paper that can compete with how I'm feeling right now. And he was just like, say no more. I can't compete with purpose. And I was like, I appreciate that. And he was super supportive with me going. From there, I went through the training academy, and they supported me the entire way through, gave me as much flexibility and leeway as I needed to be able to try to balance and do both, which I was able to do for another 2 years. And then the opportunity to become a detective came up, and I interviewed for that position, and I found out that I had gotten the position. And that's when I officially had to break off, and they totally understood. We're still really good friends till this day. And I serve right now as a detective in the Nashville area.
That's amazing. Oh my
That's
gosh.
amazing.
I have like chills listening to that story. Thank you so much. Wow. You've had like quite the career, and it seemed like it's still going. I mean,
Yeah.
From then until now, like that's incredible. And I think you mentioned something so perfect, which I know Nick will touch on too, is like purpose. I think that's such a huge topic that we talk about with veterans. So that's incredible that you had that passion in Hawaii, and you met, your fellow colleagues that you worked with and did that podcast. I mean, that's just so cool that you have that, but you also stayed true to like your heart of what you're doing now, which I think also is so important, like money, sure. Yes, we all need it and it's important, but your purpose and what you're called to do and your passion, I mean, there's, like you said, there's no price.
Yeah. And when you lay your head down on the pillow, like it's just you and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, like, what did you really do? What impact did you truly make while you were here on Earth? What makes you
truly happy? Yep. Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong. We went to some great places. I got to go to the Super Bowl. I got to do I got to meet some incredible people. I mean, everybody thought I was crazy, but I still don't regret that decision till this day. Like, I can honestly say that.
That's
That's
awesome.
incredible.
One of the things that you mentioned, just, in your transition out of the military, losing that purpose, losing that mission. It's so amazing that you found your current mission that you're a part of, and that purpose and that drive to serve and to serve others, which I know is ingrained in us in the military, right? That we serve others, and it's not about ourselves, and it's not about what we can do for ourselves. We forget how to fight for ourselves a bit.
Mm.
And so I really kind of wanted to ask the question, when you did transition out, you were able to find that new purpose, but one of the constant things that we hear from the veterans that we work with here at REE Medical is that they just didn't fight for themselves when it came to their benefits and their disability benefits. I've personally had veterans reach out to me being here at REE Medical that have said, how can I get REE Medical services for my buddy or for my friend? And through the course of that conversation, I find out that they themselves desperately need service with their claims. And they weren't even thinking about themselves. They were thinking about their buddy.
All the
right?
time.
And so what was your experience like when you transitioned out? What was your experience, your initial experience with the VA and that process of getting the benefits that you deserved for the time that you served in the military?
I'll just tell you what I thought. I thought there was going to be this easy transition where these last 6 months while I was in the Army was going to do everything they possibly could to help me transition into civilian life. What I also quickly found out is I hadn't documented anything while I was really in the military. Coming from a combat MOS, it's really frowned upon to miss time at work for one, being sick, and two, injuries that are occurring. You chalk it up to just, I'm probably sore. It's just a nagging pain that will go away over time. Just, take some painkillers and just move on, right? You don't go to sick call. You don't miss work. You don't miss a mission. You don't miss a training event. Every soldier to the left and right of you is depending on you to be there during deployments, during training events. So you suck it up and you just move forward. And that was a hard thing to come to terms with whenever I did start my claim process with the VA. And mind you, I was doing this all alone. They had told me, hey, you can go to your local VSO, you can contact the DAV. They were throwing all these acronyms out there that I had no idea what they even meant. I contacted the DAV because that seemed like the most streamlined approach from what I had heard and the most consistent at the time. I was like, okay. So I went ahead, filed through them. They set me up with several appointments through the VA. What made this even more confusing is I had to go to 7 different doctors for the things that I said wrong with me. I mentioned earlier I'd been involved in a grenade blast. The things that I had to use to try to justify what I was feeling was so frustrating. And I was kicking myself inside that office. I was like, how can I be so dumb that I just didn't go and document this stuff? Like, I was feeling so hopeless about it. The DAV obviously did what they could to try to connect certain things. And luckily, which led me to my first initial rating, which was at 60%. From there, I was just like, okay, well, I guess that's pretty good. Later down the road, I had been told that I can file for an appeal. This is all information that I am slowly finding out 2 and 3 years down the road. Like, I wish I'd had known that. I would have just submitted an appeal then. So that time, I went through a VSO because I had a little bit more knowledge about the system, having gone through initially with the DAV. They helped me file an appeal, go to this doctor. Hey, tomorrow go to this doctor. Mind you, I have a full-time job that I'm also trying to accomplish. Like, I can't just continue to just go take time off to go to doctor to doctor to doctor. And then at the end of the day, become frustrated when I'm sitting here telling somebody what I'm feeling. They're just asking me, well, how can you prove that? Like, what happened? So not only that, I'm sitting there telling this tragic freaking story of April 22nd every time I go to a different doctor. And it's just like, I'm sitting here reliving this entire moment in my freaking life, day in and day out. So it just became extremely frustrating. I went through the appeal process. They bumped me up 10%. A couple more years ago down the road, I tore my knee, a knee that they told me wasn't service connected. And I was just like, cool. So now I have a torn patella tendon. Luckily, my doctor at the time was able to say that it was due to my left knee being screwed up and overcompensating. So I knew I had to file new claim there. Once I filed that claim, that pushed me up to 80%. I thought that's as good as it's going to get for me. It's so exhausting to just walk in there and justify every time what I'm feeling. I don't know if you want me to go into the story now about how I heard about REE Medical.
Sure.
I'll gladly get into that because it wasn't, yeah. Seriously, thank you guys so much for.
Yeah.
So at the time when I had left the podcast, the first podcast that I was producing, Zach was actually somebody who consumed that content, and he found out I was a veteran through me having moments of like speaking in the podcast and being part of the show. And him and I kind of built like a friendship without having really met him, just through that, because he was a veteran. I saw, him and I actually met for lunch at another veteran's business. He had this little Connex called the Semper Sliders here in Nashville. Amazing sliders, so good. So we had went there, and that was the first time we actually met. Yeah,
full circle moment.
Full circle moment. So from that time, we're sitting there having lunch, and everybody's just kind of talking about what veterans always talk about. We talk about, hey, what's your rating? What deployments and, everything under the sun. We're just sitting there catching up, getting to know each other. Well, the conversation comes up, and Zach tells me about REE Medical. And he's like, hey, man, like, you can get to 100. You just need to contact this company. They're not going to charge you anything. You just contact them, free consultation, no questions asked. If they can help you, they will help you. If they can't help you, they'll be honest with you. They'll let you know, hey, there's really not much we can do for you individually, but they'll also give you advice moving forward if they can't help you. I was skeptical because the frustration already had mounted from going through this process time and time again.
Absolutely. As almost everyone who contacts us is. So you're not alone.
Yeah.
We're talking about the military community here. Everyone's got their favorite conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
it's the most untrusting community.
Oh, it is. And not to mention, when I started even thinking about it, you hear about, oh, don't work with third parties. They're going to take all your money. Yeah, you might get a better rating, but they're going to own 25% of that for the rest of the time you receive benefits. And so you hear these horror stories and stuff like that. So I was super skeptical, reluctant to reach out. But when I finally did, I got on the phone, and I wish I could find out who that initial person I worked with, because the way that person treated me, the way he made me feel, sat there, listened to my sob story, absolutely just made me feel so comfortable. He sat down, he went through each individual injury or service-connected injury that I had, and even injuries that weren't service-connected. Checked my email, not even 24 hours later, I had a response back. Jumped on a call. It's like, here's what we're going to do, and here's how we can help you. And I was just like, okay, hold on. This is moving a little too fast, because I was skeptical. I just told this person pretty much, I shared with him like my medical history essentially. So it was just like, hold on, take a step back. But that just goes to show you how persistent REE Medical is. They didn't sit there and waste my time. They didn't allow me to sit and think for 2 and 3 days and wondering when I'm actually going to hear back from them. I appreciated the response so quickly, because anytime you want to accomplish something and get something done, shoot, move, communicate, right? Get to the next thing. Let's go. And that's exactly how he operated. He was like, cool, this is your problem. This is your issue. I have a solution. I'm going to help you. I'm not going to waste any of your time. I'm going to contact me less than 24 hours. And he told me how he was going to help me. And I was just thrown off because I hadn't seen anybody from the DAV, and that's not discrediting anybody, or the VSO, because I know they have a ton of clients that they're also trying to work with and help. But it was just something that was so foreign to me. I didn't know that it was going to be this quick. I didn't know that they were going to be, REE Medical was going to be this persistent. I hadn't known anything about this company. Not even 2 weeks later, I had an appointment with one doctor who was able to look at everything that I needed to get reevaluated. When I walked into that doctor's office, I was already sitting and thinking, man, I'm going to have to go through this all over again. And I couldn't believe it at the time. I was like, there's no way there's just like one doctor that's going to see me and take care of me. Sure enough, I mean, I went in there, the most easy, stress-free experience I had ever experienced. Didn't sit there and question the way that I was feeling. I didn't feel judged at the things that I was saying and sharing. And to me, that meant everything. I walked out of that office and I felt good about everything that I had shared, everything that I had said, made me feel super comfortable. This process was a little bit longer. So REE had done everything they possibly could to get me to this point, which was waiting for the VA to do its thing and observe the packet. That process alone probably took 6 months.
That part can be so frustrating. And I know that because that's when I think a lot of, your mind starts to play tricks like, okay, did I make the right decision? With like, you just start to have those thoughts, understandably so. But I'm just so glad that you trusted that process and you held on and you were patient, because I think it turned out pretty good, right?
Oh, it turned out incredible. And for anybody who does have some sort of like hesitation and stuff like that, like, listen, REE will go at your pace. If it is not the time for you right now, like, they're not going to sit there and try to convince you that it is the time. They're not going to berate you about, hey, you need to get this done, or like, they just don't operate that way. It's literally at your pace and your pace only. And that was one of the things that I truly respected, because, like the myths out there that, hey, REE's not going to take your money forever. They're not even going to take it for 2 times after the initial payment. Like, it's one payment for service and that's it. From there on, you're not going to have to deal with giving them any other kind of money. In fact, you'll probably want to give them more based on the percentage you're probably going to receive. Seriously, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like, wow, there's no way that I went through this process and they only charged me X amount of dollars, because the service and support that I received throughout the entire 7-8 month process was worth every dollar.
When you got that 100% rating, having gone through that process myself, stuck exactly where you were at 80% for years, finally making that jump to 100% and knowing how substantial that jump is, not only financially, but for your medical benefits and other benefits that you now qualify for. What was that experience like, getting that 100%, and how has that impacted? How has that impacted the rest of your life and your family?
It was super emotional. When I had saw that I had received 100% VA rating, I couldn't believe it. I was like, there's no way. Like, my heart was pounding. One of the hardest things is also one of the most rewarding things. When you start your initial claim, the VA is going to back pay you from that date. The process can be frustrating in the terms of waiting and wanting to hear an answer. But if you do get an increase, and if you're working with REE Medical, you'll probably see an increase that you deserve. You will get back paid from that day. What that meant for me, what that meant for my family, and what it meant moving forward is something that I will always be grateful for. It's given me a sense of financial peace from the standpoint of, putting money away, investing money, being able to give back to my personal family, my mother, my nephews, and just kind of give back to the people that mean so much to you and love you and have been there to support you. So that meant everything to me, but it also means a lot moving forward.
Yeah.
Life-changing. It's huge.
I always like to ask this. What would you like to say to the REE Medical team now that you are a REE Medical veteran, and you always will be a REE Medical veteran? What would you like to say to the REE Medical team that helped you out?
Man, I just got chills when you said that. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for treating me like a human. Thank you for not judging me through the process. Thank you for being patient with me, because I know how efficient, how diligently each and every one of those employees work. I'm sorry that I held you up as much as I did, but I seriously appreciate the support along the way, and the seriousness and the professionalism that you took my claim in getting me to the rating that I deserve. So I appreciate it, guys. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, my family thanks you. Seriously, guys, thank you so much for everything you guys do. And I can't wait to see and follow more of these stories, because I want each and every veteran out there to feel exactly what I'm feeling right now. It's that sense of relief. It's that monkey off your back, the reestablishment of like that sense of pride, and knowing that the sacrifices you made for this country and for the people that you love was truly worth it.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, man.
Okay, well, I'm not crying. Thank you. That means so much. Honestly, it's stories like yours, and I know Nick can attest to this too, that just truly makes us like so grateful to do what we do. I mean, there is never a moment in all the years I've been with REE when I hear stories like that, that it just doesn't honestly like truly make me emotional. It never gets old. So thank you for that. It means a lot.
Thank you.
Well, that's why we love doing these interviews too, because we don't, there's so many veterans that we get to work with that we don't ever get to even see, like don't even know what they look like. We have these amazing moments and experiences with them over the phone, and then we have like no idea what they look like,
right?
Which is incredible. But to be able to, that's why like we're so passionate, Nick and I, about all of our outreach stuff and our partnership and doing these videos, because it's just such a treat for us too, to be able to meet, virtually, even if it's just virtually. Obviously in person is incredible, which, we have met some in person, which is amazing. But even just having this time with you, like it, just as much as it may mean to you, it just truly means even more to us. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. And goes to say, like, if you're having questions already or in the past about working with this company, like, they don't have to make these phone calls. They don't have to follow up. You could literally get your rating and move on to the next. But the fact that you guys were like, hey, we want to talk to you, we want to hear your story, we want to see you, we want to meet you, we want to connect with you. Like, it says everything. I don't know any other companies out there that are doing that and sharing these kind of stories, but at the same time, trying to put a face to a name. So, I mean, that speaks volumes.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I'll wrap up here, but thank you again, Blas, for sharing your story with us. It truly means the world to not only Nick and I, but our whole community and our whole REE Medical family. So any last closing remarks, Nick, before we finish our time here?
No, Blas, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I mean, we know that you still are working as a detective for the police department. You're working with Zach Bell now. I don't know if we covered that, and producing the After Action podcast.
So cool.
And really, you're doing so many things that you're passionate about. And I just want to thank you for your time, sitting down with us today and sharing your story.
Thanks, guys. And like I said, I'll continue to scream it from the mountaintop, man. It's my
we
mission
love
now
it.
to continue to spread the word. So
keep it up.
All right,
Thanks so much, you guys.
Appreciate
Have a good
it.
one.
Bye, guys.